That's effing what the Kanban. Hi, I'm Marcin Andrzejewski and I communicate visually, but I also work on electional campaigns, and that's what I'm going to share with you, because we see that this is the first presentation after the after party, so I'm going to do it cool, but it didn't work. It didn't work, and to tell you the truth, I'm not going to be with you today. I'm not going to talk about that. Cool. The guy's waking you up at 9 a.m. and he's telling you, I don't want to talk to you. And that's all he says. I'll tell you why it happened so a moment later. And that's what this presentation is about. It's an old presentation in itself because its idea is about 1 year old. I had it a year ago after a similar presentation. You were asking me how to make electoral campaigns. There were plenty of such questions at the after party. Everyone asked about technicalities, but nobody asked about the thing that is the most difficult: how to manage a political campaign, how to manage politicians, how to manage in politics. And these processes and situations are actually very much like those that you find on your professional path, perhaps on a smaller scale, perhaps running along a different intensity, but they are nearly identical. I only wonder why last year there was that great interest in politics and politicians, because research shows that this is one of the least revered professions in Poland. That's the first and last chart in my presentation, by the way, don't worry. And political party activist is one of the least revered profession in Poland. Is between a YouTuber and an influencer. Nobody knows why and how. Nobody wants to work with them until the election comes, and then suddenly everyone wants to work with them. And election is just like a project in your career path, but careers and elections are just careers and elections. You need to elect. I wonder who goes to the election. Hand up. Good. The rest go complaining. Okay. Now, there are different elections, but you need to elect. And I told you the next slide cannot be unseen. Yes, you need to elect. This is a screen from Nie Weekly Twitter, one of the best political profiles. It's run by Michał Marszał. But let's get back to elections. These are 6 types of elections in Poland. It's happened so that I've worked with all of those at various positions. Which is the most difficult from the point of view of management, managing those? The first three taken together, these are held at the same time. These are local and regional elections. They were supposed to be next year, but the government decided to move them, to delay them to the spring of 2024. I'll tell you why they are so complicated. With an average size town in Poland from 100 to 200,000 people, you've got precisely 50 candidates plus perhaps a mayor, whatever you call the mayor. And now, so as not to get this picture too dark, we don't work with all the local parliaments, but they'll say, okay, what's management if your team is just 50 people? Take it easy. You did such things when you were drunk at the night shift. Okay. And if I tell you that these are 50 clients who have their demands, who have their rights and truths, their goals and purposes, and they are not focused on a single success. They are not a team of 50 people working for you who want to achieve precisely the same thing and who are focused. Now, the myth of an ideal team is dead, and as you know, an ideal team is a group of people laughing at expensive IT hardware, but the reality is that. Do you know where it comes from? IT crowd, yes, precisely. That's a bit how my master team works. So now, is an electoral committee a group or a team? Group coordinates somehow their effort, and a team are a people who have the same goal. And so that you didn't think that I'm so cool and clever, I got that differentiation from Asana documentation. And the question is, an electoral committee, do they have individual goals or common goals? Let's play. Individual. No, it may seem that it's otherwise, but these are individual. In politics, there's this gradation: enemy, mortal enemy, and a friend on the voting list. A list of 10, number 1, if it's a large political party that has plenty of support, you can even put a monkey here and monkey wins. Number 2 is a smaller monkey, hasn't bitten the top monkey yet, but is aspiring and will probably make it. 5 and 10 are the places for people you need to use. These are often people from the youth, because somebody's got to distribute the posters for 3 months, but they mustn't win. No, come on. They're supposed to work and not to win. Then you, on top of that, have also people from different friendly institutions that you need to show on the list, but you mustn't let them win. Plus the people who are there just by coincidence. There's something that is called a parity. Minimum percentage of men and women must be there on every electoral list. At the moment, the State Electoral Committee can't manage a problem of non-binary. That's a problem from their perspective only. So there are plenty of objectives. Now, responsibility. Is it shared responsibility or individual? Have you ever seen individual responsibility in politics? Come on. Of course, it's joint, so everyone just decides to do together. Financing a committee, I don't know how you work. Do you do budgeting as well? Budgeting here is highly restrictive. Generally, if one kills it, everyone's dead. Squeaking in the mud. The way of counting votes, don't way of calculating. Even if you have plenty of votes, but your list is poor, you're not making it. Okay. Organizers agreed that I don't do it because you're supposed to translate it into managing a team at work, not just at a political committee. Have you noticed what's just happened? I've changed the singular into plural. You've got some mystical organizers in my speech. So if something doesn't work in my presentation, it's not only my fault, but also of those mythical organizers. It's a classical breakup and breakdown of responsibility. Welcome to politics. Success and failure and defeat, individual or shared? The answer to this question is yes. Success is always individual because you have your place in the parliament, and any defeat or loss is an orphan. So a classical electoral committee is where you bring together the features of a group and team, but life tells us that this is a group of people who give us challenges and who cannot be controlled. The first challenge is the subject of this conference. I don't know any other environment that would have so many perspectives within the team. Onboarding doesn't exist in such a group. In a good corporation, it lasts as long as the whole electoral campaign, so there's no time for it. While the time pressure is huge and many people simply can't stand it. I know the cases when people just gave up during the campaign, they stopped answering, and at the end of this time pressure is deadline. And this is a deadline that you cannot in any way push on. No. This is something that you can't move. Then there is this thicket of legislation. You may have your governance. Here is a code. It's an act of acts. Sometimes it's illogical. There's plenty of responsibility, unlike the budget, which is really very small against what it may seem. If some of you have their agencies and would like to work on electoral campaigns, there's money and so on. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. Several days ago, a friend of mine called. He will now be a candidate in one of small elections, I believe 160 addresses, and the official budget he has is 800 zloty. That's the budget calculated by the Polish Electoral Committee. I can't see any interest. Perhaps you wanted to help him, you know. I'll share the contact. Dynamic that cannot be found anywhere else, believe me. Even being an intern in corpo doesn't work. Competition, they react faster than we sleep. It's as if we were doing return marketing for 3 months, day in, day out. Of course, that can be curbed and bridled. All you need is to find appropriate method of management. You can use Scrum. You can be agile. You can reach Zen and all the wise words that you've heard here. You heard yesterday, you will hear today. I did it. I employed a very good Scrum Master. She worked with me many times before on commercial projects. And she got down to work, and after 2 days, she reported. And believe me, that was the best understood information in my life. That was perfect feedback. I didn't know that you can work and speak so fast. Kanban works. No, due to its logic of management. No. Kanban works mostly through its graphic user interface. I often work with people who have very low, if not zero, digital competences, but they have that perception which lets them understand what a corkboard is, and that's a level they can go through. Kanban also works because its implementation time is practically zero compared to other management methods, and it also lets me combine tasks for individual members and for the manager, and it's all in a single view. In practice, I'll show you what it works on realistic examples from multiple campaigns. We first choose a tool. Many of you were interested to know what mechanisms, what tools, and the answer is very simple. I personally use simple Trello, and I've used it from the time when this was a funny little startup. My first Trello board is from 2012. I remember Trello Gold and the dog. But Trello itself and all the other boards, it doesn't matter what. This is only a tool. And for that tool, I always add operating manual. And that's really a prosthetics of onboarding. That's really a synthesis of help with some active links so that the candidates wouldn't have to think, click, and do other things. It's a bit, dressed into some psychological or marketing texts to them. Of course, it's all branded, nice and cool. Only Trello itself is only an empty board. You need content to put in, and I use for it a very simple tool, Google Forms, connected to IFT to have some automation. Why do I do it? Because it's the simplest, because it's understandable for members of the board. And as I said, please remember they have very low, sometimes zero digital competences. And something that I learned while working, Google Forms is safe, but safe not in our understanding of digital safety, SSL, etc., but from the perspective of those people who are not aware of cybersecurity and they heard about a company called Google. They know Google, and to them that's a synonym of safety. I know that it sounds funny, perhaps, but unfortunately that's the reality we work in, and we've got to work with those people. How do I collect my data? First of all the key information must be provided at the start. You need to execute that. You've got to do it. You don't input data, you don't go on. They are magnificent. If we don't provide that support to them, we don't make them do it, they'll come to us on Friday before the election on Sunday and say, okay, so I've got my slogan and we can do the campaign because my daughter gave it to me. On Saturday, you can't do anything because it's 48 hours before the voting that you cannot advertise. We always offer a prize. I always offer a prize because we have our limited funds for elections. Two, we disarm another threat because these are people who see a big difference between two visiting cards, one for 99.77 and 98. A month into your work, it can be really a problem. You can't see this price here, but this is a screen from a true campaign. And it's often been so that the committee wanted all the candidates to have something. That's a mistake. In this case, Facebook cover, where every candidate had to have a Facebook profile. Come on, only for 3 months. It's really shooting yourself in the foot marketing-wise, but we enforce certain things with a flyer. I know that a flyer is not complicated for us. For them, it is. We collect all the information, so if you have 4 fields, you need to provide information for them. There's always limit of characters, and Google Forms do it because some people would put in 4 A4 pages for it. And at the end, once again, I make them log in into Trello. They have to do it. And this is a list that got generated. This is the effect of that procedure. Realistic. It's not something that was made only for that presentation.
So we have candidate here, the list of materials, orders, different etiquettes with statuses, the files that can be downloaded, and all the other tasks given to individual candidates. So I manage it, but it's also the candidate who manages it. And this is what the board looks like. And this is actually the board from 2014. It was closed this way. I closed it 8 years ago and opened it a couple of weeks ago as I prepared this slide. And here we know exactly who ordered what the campaign looked like, and everything seems to be nice, but you know, the main slogan of this conference comes here, because there will be always those who will criticize you, right? And it happened to me too. So a candidate came to me and said, okay, Marcin, this is my smartphone and this is my laptop and this is what I manage. I don't have an email. I don't want to manage things. Really, I remember him just, you know, throwing this file at me saying, you know, this is my laptop. And it's a fact. That's what it looked like. Okay, so I talked to him for 20 minutes and I knew that it wouldn't make sense to talk to him more because it wouldn't make sense. So I did something that I usually don't do. I gave him my private phone number and he was the only one in the community who was allowed to use it. And I decided to polish automation. So I added text message notification to it because that was what he could grapple with. And thanks to it, he wasn't excluded from the flow of information, so he knew all the same things that people who had Trello app in their phones. So yes, 20 minutes. It's worth being flexible, but you know, you have to do it in a wise way and make sure that it doesn't blast your team from inside, because then everybody will come up and have their own demands. And it's worth being flexible for some more earthly reason. Okay, so my phone was left there because, well, I had to leave it there. But, you know, it's worth millions of zlotys and it's worth much more than Bugatti Veyron. Because of the data that the phone has. And thanks to this phone, well, I'm actually here talking to you today. It has also saved people's lives and health. Because how you actually use your contacts and relations actually depends solely on you. But it's not always so sweet, and you can stay with nothing. The G syndrome is the syndrome of knowledge, named after one of the candidates that I've worked with. Well, he became a mayor of a city, and suddenly he has this great knowledge, and his team just you know, turned out to be idiots, right? So he gathered them. Once he won the election, he gathered them and said, okay, guys, so what are you really experts in? Because I don't think you're experts in anything. And he just, you know, dismissed them. And now, okay, when it comes to your prize, you know, when people say, okay, yes, we'll struck the deal, we say, okay, that, you know, after the elections, you'll get this contract, right? Only a person who doesn't know what the public procurement process looks like can say something like this.
There is one more thing.
Okay, there is one more thing. I've always wanted to say it standing on the stage. So yes, ticked off. Now, when we manage teams, we seem to forget about one more person, you know, the one who actually manages the team. And really, team management can exhaust you because it's legal responsibility, it's financial responsibility, and not everyone is competent enough to actually do it.
Członków zespołu po to, żeby nim zarządzać, i to się nie sprawdza. będąc w klimacie firmy Apple, no to Steve Wozniak przecież,
you know, Steve Wozniak, for example, the co-founder of Apple.
Genialny miłośnik stalaków i on sam o tym mówił.
He
on jest
was
inżynierem, on nigdy nie chciał być
genius,
zarządzającym zespołem.
but he was an engineer. He didn't want to manage teams, and he proposed to it his life. He just wanted to.
Kampania potrafi wykończyć
He
i
didn't want to manage people. He
wykluczyć
just
na
wanted
długi
to
czas, bo to jest
be an
strasznie
engineer, and
obciążające
he succeeded in doing so.
Wierzcie, nie wiem co mówię.
So yes,
Kiedyś po takim
team
maratonie
management requires huge experience. I did 3 elections in a row, so it was like a marathon for me, and I had to take a rest for 8 months, and that's what I did.
No chociażby
8 full months.
Taką cudowną rzeczą jak czarny PR.
Why is this so exhausting? Well, there's black PR, for example. We all know what black PR is, right? But no one of us knows the definition of it. But in the world of politics, there is one good definition of black PR. I never thought I would actually quote Jacek Kurski, because I believe he's an evil person. And he shouldn't be quoted, but at the same time he's very smart, very intelligent. And this quote actually reflects very well what black PR is. And you can add to it other things related to team management, such as suspense, for example, and team manipulation, and you've been actually manipulated by me since the very beginning of this presentation. Do you remember what I said at the beginning? I said, I don't want to be here at all. And that's actually true. Okay, this mechanism is called Hitchcock Last. It's a frame from one of his films, so there's Ingrid Bergman and Gregory Peck. You know, they're traveling by train and talk for around 10 minutes. You can imagine it, he's holding her hands, looking her deep into the eye, and there's the blast, and they both die.
Ta emocja zostanie z wami 10-15
And this emotion will stay with you for like 10 or 15 minutes, because then there's another scene in the film, and in this presentation we have another slide, and life goes on. Okay, just imagine the same frame, the same scene, but you know that there's this bomb planted under the chair, right? And yes, they're on the train, you know, talking, he's holding her hand, looking her deep into the eye, and there's landscape, you know, moving, and in your head you keep thinking how to get through to them and tell them, okay, run away because you're going to die in a moment. And then this emotion lasts a bit more than 10 seconds. No, it lasts 10 minutes. So suspense means we're not talking about this moment of blast, but how you actually give it to people. It's actually one of the first films in the history of Hollywood that tackled on psychoanalysis, the scientific method started by Sigmund Freud. And why Hitchcock? Because if you want to start playing with manipulating teams, then you need to use psychology. And you should gain your knowledge from masters of the topic, and not from guys who've written articles and posted them online. Poszerzajcie swoje horyzonty, bo taka syntetyczna wiedza to zamyka was. Broaden your horizons, because synthetic knowledge just blocks you in this bubble, and you don't want to live in a bubble. And now, why isn't it pleasant for me to be here with you? Why is it that I really don't want to be here? Because I'm really disgusted with what's happening in the politics, and the coming campaigns, political campaigns, are going to be last ones for me, I believe. So that's why I can tell you quite frankly and honestly what I think about it. Now, 20 days ago, I decided I wouldn't come here. For this very reason. I can see the organizers looking at me right now because this is the moment when they're actually finding out that I really didn't want to come here, though we signed the contract for this presentation a couple of months ago. So yes, on the 30th of August, I decided I wouldn't come here. I didn't really want to talk about politics and political campaigns. And, you know, at that time, I just was sitting home thinking how to phrase my email to Natalia, you know, that I wasn't coming. But on the 30th of August, something else happened too. What was that? I'm not sure if Dorota is in this room. Is she there? Yes, she's there. Okay. I wanted to ask you whether you wanted to show yourself here, but yes, okay. You've done it. Dorota, thank you. Because this message changed my perspective completely. And then I decided, yes, I would come here. I showed you some good sides of life a year ago, and I decided it was time to show you the bad sides of it. Because maybe this way you'll be more cautious. Maybe this way you'll make better decisions than myself. I decided I owed this to you. Thank you.
Teraz Marcin Andrzejewski.
Thank you, Marcin Andrzejewski. Okay, let's start a round of questions. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask a question? No. I've killed them emotionally. Okay, I can see someone raising their hand. I can't see anything. You know, I'm wearing glasses. Okay, hi everybody. Can you hear me well? Okay, first and foremost, thanks for your presentation. It was absolutely excellent, and I'm very happy that I'm here today. Well, with my question, I'd like to refer to the guys from CMA. You know, they're our technical support, but also organizers of this event. I know what it looks like because I used to work for the events industry, and I remember about deadlines. And, well, you told us that getting prepared for the election campaigns, it was really hard work. There wasn't much money there, or no money actually, that people are not very competent, that this digital threshold, entry threshold is very high, that it's, you know, really exhausting actually to do it. So what actually made you stay in the industry for so many years? I know that next year is going to be your last year, but what's been the driving force? Okay, adrenaline, chemistry, right, and victory. It happened to me many times. So I've also had some spectacular failures, and I must say that I still don't understand one of them. Why we actually failed. And now, different people, different approaches to life, different ways of managing myself that I learned through contacts with different people whom I met on this political path cannot be underestimated. And that's why I'm still there, because, you know, emotions are gone. After so many years, I've just become a craftsman. So that's the only thing that comes to my mind.
prawidłowa odpowiedź na to pytanie, to są te właśnie
And I believe that this is the right question to answer.
które spotykam.
So the different perspectives
To jest tak
that you
oczywiście
can
na
get
potrzeby tej
there.
prezentacji przedstawiłem to wszystko w takich
Well,
szarych,
I've
burych
presented
barwach.
it this
To dlatego,
way,
że w tamtym roku było wszystko na
not very
wesoło, więc teraz
colourful,
chciałem wam zrobić trochę
for the
też,
purpose of
ale
this presentation,
życie
right?
oczywiście nie
Because
jest
last
takie
year it was
smutne.
all rosy.
Masz rację. Deadline'y są nieprzekraczalne, tak jak
And yes,
przy
you're
ekipie
right.
technicznej takiego wydarzenia, bo oni
Deadlines
też nie mogą się
cannot be,
pomylić.
well,
ani
have
zrobić
to be
obsuwy. To
met.
Ta praca nie
You
jest
cannot
aż
be
taka
late with anything.
ciężka, jak
But
wynikałoby
this
to z
work
tej
isn't
prezentacji, bo to
as
jest
hard
celowa kreacja na
as
potrzeby tego
you know,
wydarzenia,
this
zero-jedynkowa
presentation
troszeczkę.
has shown you.
Oczywiście
I
są
just
też
did it on
blaski i cienie
purpose.
i różne odcienie szarości.
There are some good sides and bad sides of
Więc,
it. That's
to
obvious,
jest chyba
but there are
odpowiedź
also
na to pytanie, ale
there's
generalnie
a
jedna
lot of
rzecz,
grey color too. So not only black and white.
która jeszcze mnie w tym trzyma, to ludzie. Mimo wszystko,
And
czyli
what is keeping
ci,
me
którzy
there?
tworzą te
Well,
problemy, a jednocześnie
people. So people who
to są
generate
osoby,
problems,
to jest
but
bodziec, który,
at the same
który
time
gdzieś tam
they work
pozwala
as
mi na to,
the
żeby jeszcze
stimulus that
funkcjonować.
makes me stay.
Kropka.
Pytania. Czy są
And
jakieś
that's the
pytania?
end. Okay, questions?
Nikt nie chce kandydować?
Jest tutaj pytanie
Yes,
po
we
prawej.
have a question here.
Jednak ktoś chce.
Jednak ktoś chce.
Okay, so
Na to też mam
there are
odpowiedź.
people who'd love
Ja mam
to.
takie pytanie, bo rozumiem, jakby to, co ty
participate in
prezentujesz, taką
election
złożoność
campaigns.
tego, że te wybory, czy tam
No, I
kampanie,
understand
tak,
that this is
trudno
quite a
nasz
complex
projekt. Pytanie takie
issue.
zupełnie z boku
So I
niezależnie
have
od tego,
just
o czym jest ta konferencja.
a completely
Ale czy nie masz takiego
different
wrażenia, że
question.
Tak, jak prezentujesz przynajmniej tak jakbyś trochę, to może jest zero-jedynkowe, bo
Don't
chciałeś
you
puknąć, ale
think that
czy nie masz takiego przekonania, że trochę tak jeszcze bardziej tą politykę pokazujesz od takiej, powiedzmy, złej strony, tak?
well, you've shown
Czy nie jest możliwe,
politics
wiesz,
from
polityka trochę
like this
inne
really
wydanie,
bad
tak,
and
że
evil
można jakoś zmieniać
side.
świat,
Maybe
tak? Mam
you
wrażenie,
know you can
po twojej
change the world
prezentacji,
with
jak
politics.
powiedzieć,
Maybe there's some
no bo
good
tak
sides of
nastawia, no, jakby
politics.
Tak, chyba się niewiele da zrobić, tak? No,
because you know the way you're showing it is that well you can't really do
no nie
much
ma dobrych
about it.
intencji i tak naprawdę wszystko jest gdzieś tam, że tak powiem, rozdane. Nie? To tak zupełnie pobocznie.
That there are no
nie, to
no
jest
good
bardzo-
intentions
właściwie
there.
główny temat mógłby być, nawet nie poboczny.
It's
Masz
like
rację.
an off-topic. No, it
Masz
could
rację.
be the
Też
main
nie jest
topic of
tak,
our
że
discussion here.
nie da
Yes,
się
you're
nic zrobić,
right.
da się
It's
coś
not
zrobić.
that
Szymon
you
Hołownia
can't
jest
do
przykładem tego,
anything
że da się
that's
coś
good.
zrobić.
Well, Szymon Hołownia
Na
is
razie jeszcze
definitely
bezefektowo, ale to nie jest tak, że
you
od
know
razu
someone who
zdobywa się
shows
władzę.
us that you know
Ale
things
zaczęło
can be
robić.
done differently. Well,
Więc można coś zrobić. Nie ma czegoś
he
takiego jak
hasn't got
zabetonowanie
power
sceny
yet,
politycznej.
but
Jesteśmy jeszcze
he
młodą
started
demokracją,
doing
wszystko
something.
jest przed nami.
After all, we're quite a young democracy.
Te bardzo
so
rozwinięte demokracje o dłuższym
future is
stażu niż nasza
still
Polska,
ahead of us.
gdzie jest taki duopol władzy. Właściwie są dwie partie.
Now,
Zobaczcie Stany Zjednoczone, zobaczcie Anglię.
in
tam
the
są dwie
United
główne
States or
partie,
in
które
Great Britain,
zawsze
they just
biją
have
się o
two main parties
zwycięstwo.
that
U nas tak to jeszcze nie
keep
wygląda.
fighting for
Więc wszystko można
victory.
zrobić.
This is not
żeby
our
miało być
situation
pesymistycznie,
here in
miało być.
Poland.
Miało
So
to
yes,
trochę
things
wami
can be
też
done.
zatrząść, bo
Was I pessimistic on
ta
purpose?
perspektywa
Yes,
wbrew pozorom wcale nie jest kolorowa. No.
because well,
Ale jest tak samo niekolorowa jak wasze
prospects
projekty,
are
jak
not that
zarządzanie
colourful,
w
but you
projekcie
know they're
komercyjnym.
equally
Tylko osoby,
grey
które siedzą,
as
wiedzą,
your
ile
projects
brudu za
are.
paznokciami trzeba
You
mieć,
know,
ile trzeba się narobić, żeby na samym końcu
managing
wyszła
pro-
super fajna
project commercially,
aplikacja,
right?
która gra, śpiewa i zarabia dla nas pieniądze, nie? I tylko wy,
Because yes,
macie tą
generating an
perspektywę,
app that in the end is colourful and
że znacie, jak
you
wygląda
know
to od strony
melodious and
projektowej,
earns
od
you
strony,
money. You know,
budowania
it's not
czegoś takiego.
easy to achieve
Więc,
something like this.
zgadzam
So
się z tym, co
you all
powiedziałaś,
know
że
what I'm talking about, and I
może
do
być takie
agree
przeświadczenie, że już nic
with
się nie da
what you
zrobić.
said,
Da
that
się
you
to zrobić.
might get this
Wy
impression that
jesteście grupą,
nothing
która
can be
rozumie to
done,
najlepiej,
but
bo wy jesteście
no, things can be done, and I'm sure you're
śmietanką,
the people who
która
know it well,
potrafi
because
robić,
you're
a
this
wbrew pozorom
crème de la
to jest
crème. You
bardzo
know
rzadka cecha.
what
Wszyscy potrafią
can be
narzekać,
done.
wszyscy potrafią krytykować,
And
wszyscy
you know,
potrafią
everybody
ocenić. A wy
can
jesteście
just
ludźmi,
judge
jesteście
things
projektantami
and
w różnych
complain
dziedzinach.
and so on, but
Macie
you're
gen i
different.
cechę,
You
która
have
potrafi
this
zmienić ten świat.
gene, this
Ja mówiłem o tym rok temu,
DNA,
że projektanci rządzą tym
thanks to
światem,
which you can
politycy.
change the world. Yes, a
Trochę
year
prześmiewczo.
ago I said
Więc
designers
jeżeli
ruled the world,
upatrywać
not
gdziekolwiek
politicians.
zmiany, to na tej sali,
So
bo macie
if
zbiór cech psychofizycznych, które
there
was do
should
tego
be any
predysponują.
change, well, I believe it should be generated
jesteście
by
przyszłością
you,
tego
because
narodu,
you have the
jakkolwiek
right
patetycznie
features,
to
the right
zabrzmi.
characteristics. You are
A
the
nie osoby,
future of
które
this
spotykamy na
nation,
wiecach wyborczych.
and not the ones
raczej
that
was
the
to
people that
dlatego.
you meet
Więc,
at political
przed
rallies.
Czy macie jeszcze jakieś pytania?
Are there any other questions?
Dobra, to
Okay.
jest, mamy jedno.
Yes, we have one more question here.
Ja mam jedno. Czy wiedząc to wszystko, znając te sztuczki,
Okay,
znając tych ludzi
so
na
you
żywo,
already know the
znaczy, że
tricks and you've
odczuwałeś
met
swojego
people
rodzaju frustrację
live,
idąc
and I'm sure that you felt some
nie
frustration
potrafią się zajmować
when you
tym,
saw
czym
that
zajmują się
people
na co dzień. Czy ty sam
really,
miałeś ochotę kandydować w pewnym momencie? Że
didn't
już
know what
jak
they were
poznałeś
doing,
te
although
wszystkie
they were
tajniki,
telling everybody they knew what they were
w sumie
doing.
dałbym
Didn't you want
radę,
to,
tak, od takiej ludzkiej strony. Ja wiem, że to nie jest twoje
you
zajęcie,
know,
nie? Ale jakby mając w
become
sobie
part of
taką
it
ideę
and
zmiany świata i tak dalej,
take
idąc
part
do
in the
przodu,
elections?
po prostu nie nachodziły cię czasami takie myśli.
Maybe had some thoughts like
Pierwsze, nie jestem
this.
taki mądry, mam tutaj
Well, first and foremost,
podpowiedzi,
I'm
ja
not
to
that
wszystko czytam
smart. You know, I've been
Ale
reading all this out for
raz w życiu
you.
zaangażowałem się emocjonalnie.
Okay, I got involved emotionally in a political
Nie
campaign
kandydowałem,
only
co
once.
prawda, no
It was
bo
in my
chciałem, żeby ta
hometown.
kampania była faktycznie zwycięska, więc dałem z
yes,
siebie to, co,
I wanted
to, co mogłem
people to win.
prowadziłem jakby tą kampanię.
So I did
Ta kampania
my
była zwycięska.
best
Ta
and I
kampania
led
zdobyła prezydenta,
the
zdobyła
campaign,
większość w
and
Radzie,
yes, we
zdobyła
were
najwięcej
victorious.
mandatów, mieliśmy
You
koalicję
know, the
rządzącą.
mayor
Generalnie
was
wzięliśmy wszystko, co można było wziąć wtedy
elected
do wzięcia,
and
jeżeli chodzi o lokalne środowisko
we
polityczne.
formed a
Skończyło się
coalition that
Tak,
won.
że wiem, że się do tego nie nadaje.
And well,
Bo
but in
dostałem
the end,
gdzieś tam
I
przez jakiś
knew
czas,
that,
nie? Żeby
well,
nie mówić, że
that wasn't my
dokładnie,
world
że
because
się
I,
w ogóle
well,
wszystko
I
jest
became
do-
someone for
do
some
sprawdzenia.
time. I got
Nie, wiesz co,
a
bo
post there.
moje życie jest za krótkie, żebym się musiał kopać z koniem.
And you know,
A to
in the
niestety
end,
tak
I
wygląda.
came to the conclusion that that wasn't me because my life was too short
Zrobiłem
to
raz, nie
keep
powiem, że zrobiłem to i to
fighting.
jest błąd, bo nie, bo to jest, wiesz, ja generalnie staram się już nie popełniać błędów, tylko
against
się
things
uczyć,
that you can't
nawet na
really
porażkach.
fight.
Ale raczej tego drugi raz
So no, I'm
nie
not going
powtórzę,
to
nie chcę
repeat
tego robić.
this mistake. I don't want to
dziękuję.
do it. I don't want to get involved in it. No, thank
Okej,
you.
to jeszcze jedno pytanie ze slajdu.
Okay, we have
Jak
a
wygląda
question from
kultura
Slido.
osobista polityków podczas współpracy?
Um,
Jak trudno, łatwo się pracuje z osobami o wysokich aspiracjach?
Czekaj. W jednym zdaniu pojawiły się
I'd like to ask about politicians and you know, their culture, their way of being. Okay, I remember that there was this slogan related to politicians. Politicians had high aspirations, right? High ambitions. Well, politicians are just regular people. You know, all of them do their shopping. You know, they buy
Spotkać ich przy
bread
kasie
and they
i-
know,
albo
you
spotkać ich
know,
w windzie i będą mieli ze sobą koszyk z
how much it
Biedronki i
costs.
w drugiej
You know, you
ręce,
can
6
visit,
opak z papierem
see
toaletowym.
them
Tak, bo oni też
in a
robią wszystko,
lift,
robią to samo.
and
Normalni
they
ludzie,
have
najzwyklejsi na świecie. Jeżeli chodzi o kulturę osobistą,
toilet
to jest takie pytanie
paper.
podyktowane tym,
You
co-
know,
co
they
widzicie
carry
w
their
telewizji,
toilet
co wam do was
paper,
dociera jako
or
przekaz medialny,
they've done their shopping
co
in
w
Biedronka.
większym lub mniejszym stopniu cały czas jest
So yes, they're
wykreowane.
just regular people.
Wszystkie walki,
The
że oni się
image
nie lubią,
that
oni tam
you
krzyczą, oni na
see
siebie napadają, jak,
on
jest
TV, you know,
dyskusja
it's
i
mostly
widzisz, kto jest zaproszony, to już
generated,
dokładnie wiesz, co on
created.
powie.
You know, the fact that they shout at one another, keep fighting, and
Oni
so on.
przyjeżdżają na ten-
No,
na to
this is
spotkanie
it's
jednym
distorted
samochodem,
by
bo
the
jest
media.
taniej.
You know, they come to meetings
Tego
by one
spotkania
car
choć
because
pokłócą
it's
się przed
cheaper,
kamerami, wyjeżdżają jednym
and
samochodem i
although
wożą się
they
do domu, to pewnie
argue
tylko
in front of the
2 godziny na
cameras, you know, they still
I to
take
jest dobre.
one car back home and
To
then
jest
they
to, co widzimy w telewizji. Nie? Bo to pytanie jest
meet
za-
one
za-
another,
podyktowane. Właśnie.
you know, invite one another
To są normalni,
for some
najzwyklejsi
grilling.
ludzie.
And
Jak
that's
wypiją
actually good. You know,
4
what you
piwa,
see on TV
to
is
używają
bad.
więcej
They are just
przekleństw
normal
jako
people.
znaku
If they've had
niż,
4 beers,
jak nie
maybe
wypiją,
they'll
tak
use
samo jak my.
more swear words,
Jak
just as
wypiją
we
4
do.
piwa, to lepiej im się tańczy niż...
And if they've
Czyli
had
tak samo
4
jak my.
beers, you know,
Jak mają ochotę, to
they
pójdą do
dance more easily,
Tak
just
samo jak
like
my.
us. And you
Prosto.
know,
Nie ma
if they
problemu z kulturą
feel like
osobistą.
it,
Oczywiście
they
zdarzają się
they'll
chamy i
go
buce.
to the opera, just like us. Of course, there are some boorish people there too, but I've met, boorish designers and musicians and TV speakers, and I've met boorish politicians. Is there any difference? No, because I've also met wonderful people, wonderful Kajetan, wonderful you. So no, there is no problem related to